Good Sunday morning, Northeast Ohio. You know, this time of year, Washington, D.C. is a popular place for tourists from Ohio, school trips and the like. But one of the more popular destinations of late hasn't been any of these places, but rather this place, the U.S. Supreme Court. For the second time this month, a ruling from an Ohio federal court appears heading to the High Court. 2 weeks ago, it was the gerrymandering case, and this week, it was the Ohio heartbeat abortion law, as the ACLU issued the challenge that many behind the law knew was coming. When Governor Mike DeWine signed the so-called heartbeat abortion bill into law last month, it was never a question of if, but when the federal court challenge would be filed by opponents. This week it was.
The bill makes it a felony for a physician to perform an abortion within 6 weeks of the last menstrual period. So at this stage, most folks have no idea and can't know that they're pregnant. And the legislative act would basically outlaw abortion in the state.
The motion was filed in a federal court in Cincinnati, but that was never the anticipated final destination.
Have a vehicle for the United States Supreme Court, so that should it be ready to do so, it could revisit some of its prior rulings.
Most notably, Roe v. Wade, the 1973 decision that legalized abortion across the country, a move that pro-life groups believe faces better odds with newly seated Justice Brett Kavanaugh on the bench. Ohio Right to Life saying in a statement they believe the heartbeat bill is the right vehicle for the Supreme Court to overturn Roe. Ohio, one of several states to pass heartbeat bills into law this year, with the Alabama legislature taking it even further this week, essentially banning abortions at every stage of the pregnancy. The ACLU believes the court will stand with its 46-year-old decision.
Regardless of the composition of the Supreme Court, the current or the composition in the recent past, the Supreme Court is going to follow what's been its clear precedent for many decades and uphold the fundamental right to abortion.
I spoke with Senator Sherrod Brown about the push, not only in Ohio, but across the country.
Well, I just don't understand how. I mean, the state of Alabama, which is going to have the most restrictive laws, rape, incest, don't matter. Yet the legislature seems to care nothing about these babies after they're born and these young mothers. Instead, they want to write these laws that are generally overwhelmingly written by men and thinking they should tell women what their health needs are.
The ACLU of Ohio has asked the court to stop the law from going into effect, which is slated to happen July 10th. On a separate matter, the ACLU, part of a group that has until tomorrow to submit to the U.S. Supreme Court their arguments why the court shouldn't issue a stay in the gerrymandering case. That's the ruling that ordered the state to redraw its congressional districts and do it by June 14th. The state is arguing that's not enough time and that the court should at least give Ohio until the courts rule on similar cases in Maryland and North Carolina, which will happen by the end of June. Rulings that could have an impact on what eventually happens in Ohio. Well, tomorrow wraps up Infrastructure Week in the United States. And did you know that here in Northeast Ohio, we are home to the largest and most expensive infrastructure project in the region's history, and it's one you'll likely never see. It's called Project Clean Lake. I'll leave it to my alter ego to give us a closer look. You've likely seen the work going on around University Circle or here on the west side. What we're doing is giving you a peek behind the curtain, or in this case, under the city. It's part of Project Clean Lake, a $3 billion plan to dig a series of 7 massive tunnels under Greater Cleveland, 2 to 7 miles in length, that will be able to hold untreated water during a storm that can be pumped out and treated after. This is the Westerly Tunnel, being dug 200 feet below Scranton Road in the Flats, that will stretch 2 miles under Tremont in Ohio City.
You'll see our second shaft over by the Harp, just on the south side of the Shoreway by West 45th Street, and then the tunnel will be completed just a little bit north of the Soapbox Derby on the north side of the Shoreway.
Cleveland sewers carry both the waste from our homes and that which goes down the drains in our streets. During a storm, the volume is too great for the system to handle, resulting in about 4.5 billion gallons of the untreated mix being released into the river and lake each year. This 25-year federally mandated project will get that down to about 0.5 billion. This tunnel will help ease the discharges into the Cuyahoga River from this sewer, which dumps about 330 million gallons of untreated water each year into the Cuyahoga. That's the equivalent of the amount of water that flows over Niagara Falls in roughly 7.5 minutes.
And by 2022, the goal is to have that 330 million gallons down to just about 15 million gallons. So it'll completely control everything and all except the biggest rainstorms.
Of the 7 storage tunnels in the project, one, Euclid Creek, came online last summer. The Dugway Storage Tunnel in Glenville will come online later this year. And the Don Valley Tunnel is being dug right now under University Circle. With this one, the Westerly, set to start being mined in August. Now, the bad news is this $3 billion project is entirely ratepayer funded. That's why you've been seeing the slow creep in your sewer bills over the past couple of years. The good news is they've been able to realize so far about $500 million in savings. With Democracy 2019, I'm John Kosich. Enjoy your Sunday.